Yo, what is up, YouTube? Hope you are doing well. Wanted to just go into a version 2.0 of the Majespecter deck that I went over the other day. Was trying to climb into Master before the end of the season. Was playing last night and then climbed into Master 1. And I mean, I'm sorry, Diamond 1. And then kind of called it there and was like, okay, I'll try to get there tomorrow before the end of the season. And then turns out I can't read military time correctly, so it was actually after I got off work, so it had already ended. So I wasn't able to get into Masters, sadly, before the end of the season with it. But leading up into Diamond 1, with the changes I made, it was actually really, really nice. So I just wanted to go quickly over that, and then we'll jump into some of the replays here just to kind of showcase now that I've piloted the deck a little bit more, kind of how I feel about it and some of the lines that I'm taking off of certain hands that aren't just like Bunbuku one card. But yeah, so major difference here. We're at 40 instead of 42, and I took out the Dark Contract Requiem into Machine X package and instead swapped it out for running a Type 40. I added a third copy of Wind in, and then added in a copy of Nibiru just as a crossout target. And for the off chance you're going second and you have it in hand, it's good too. But those were the major changes I made. And then for the extra deck, because I took Deus X Machine out, our boy, I swapped it out for an Abyss Dweller, just a situational card. And I added in the Appaloosa. I'm trying to think if I cut anything else to make that make sense. I'll have to look at what my other list was before, but yeah, I think that was the major changes, but pretty much they're both situational. Your main combo you're going into first turn is going to get you into New A, and you're going to be locked into Majespecters. So you hardly ever go, into anything other than that. And from that point on, like a lot of the times your lines are going to be real easy to go into Exceed the Pendulum into access code is just a better idea. But I added them in kind of for those long games after I played some of those games where they went on forever. I was like, okay, like those cards would have shut down a lot of those plays if I had them after turn 3. But it's kind of whatever. I feel like pros and cons to both lists. The other thing that it has strong versus this version that I felt was lacking is back row removal, whereas like Machine X can pop a back row. So that was like the one extra pop that I was like, dang, that kind of is nice when you have it. But I mean, there's still things you can do. You can kind of go into a Zeus line a lot of the times too. So you have ways to remove back row removal, but the core strategy is really banking on you going first and setting up like a really annoying board for them to deal with. But yeah, so we'll go into some of the gameplays here with the 40 card version, and I'll try to break them down. All right, hopping into gameplay number 1 here. I think this one I won the coin flip. Yep, we are going first, which is what we love. Interesting hand for going first. We've got a, double porcupine. We've got Yata the crow, and then we've got Ogama the toad. So I love a hand like this because we can test for certain hand traps, and then also we get a really, really strong board. So I'll talk about how I routed it and what choices I made, so that you can kind of see, like, as I've piloted the deck more, I start to understand things that make your board way stronger. So this has kind of really helped me. So because of how I'm looking, what I'm basically doing is I'm using Yata to see what type of Ash or Imperms they've got. We go for Wind, and then we have Porcupine go into New A, like our classic Bunbuku combo. And then now what we're doing is we're adding Yatta and Porcupine back to hand because they're the same scales as Yatta and Bunbuku are basically the same. Like they're a 1-card starter for you. If you have Porcupine, it's like a 2-card same combo, you know? But without Porcupine, you're gonna have to use the wind on your Yatta and then go into Bunbuku search for Porcupine. But since I had all this extension in hand, we're basically saving the wind, and then now we're using the new way to set up a QB, the Fox, and the Pegasus, right? And just as like a random side note, this was the other card I had cut from the extra deck to fit in the Appaloosa. So I cut Deus Ex, and then I cut this guy, Magister Paladin. But yeah, so right now with this hand, this is the combo we rolled into. We are setting up our scales. So we have our 2 and our 5, we have our 2 pen 2, and then from hand we're gonna summon 2. I think I only choose to summon Ogama, so I have an extra card for discard. And then yes, so the other big thing here is no matter what I'm doing, I'm trying to route Toad out onto the field, because if I can get Toad, and especially if I can get QB, I'm getting both traps. So I have wind, I'm getting both traps, and I'm getting village. So this is literally what I would refer to as probably the best board you could put up. And we're setting Tornado, and we're always trying to use Toad to chain link block everything. So we set with Toad, we search Tempest with QB, we search the wind, and then I pitched the other copy of Porcupine into the graveyard off of the discard, set all the back row. So now we have bodies for tributing, and we just keep going. Turns out it's going to be Bury Your Statue, so I'm right away going to banish it with Tornado, and then because it's gone, now I'm going to be able to pitch Toad, summon Bunbuku search Porcupine comes out, I have more bodies to tribute, and he just passes like that, so we're not going to have to use any of our other extenders. Right away, we're just going to link these guys off into Exceed the Pendulum. And then I always double chain it to itself, because why not? At this point, who cares? You know? And I set Toad, use Toad and Exceed to go into the free access code. This is lethal on board now, and I'm just going to try to clear his back row. And then as I chain it, he scoops because it was like the Mirror Force or something, who knows. But yeah, so right there, we still had another trap card that we could use, and we would tribute another body. Off of that, we would be able to summon another person off of our Ryu, and that's where we would go for something like Unicorn. And then with Unicorn Kirin on the board, we then have another interruption. So then it's like no matter what, you can go right into OTKs, or you go into trying to elongate, like let me go into monster negates. Sometimes you can, like, I had one game where I went into like Electromite and then started to try to bait hand traps, like all this stuff. And then I had like reborn a guy off of my wind, and I bring back the new way, and then you have 2 link 2s on the board that, like, you could go into Appaloosa, like you could do anything from that point, so there's a lot of lines you can take with this deck, but the first turn is very like you're trying to accomplish the same thing every time, so it's the grind game where the deck really does shine if you get to that point, but it hurts going second, not gonna lie. But yeah, we'll get into the next gameplay here. All right, so these last 2 are gonna be a little bit more exciting in terms of like actual gameplay. I think this one is probably the one I'm thinking of, where It's a good showcase of how to use your interruptions. And again, I get the Crow Porcupine combo with Pegasus in hand. So we're going to route the hand, you know? So we go Porcupine, search Wind, use these two to go up into New Way. And then now, because I have Pegasus in hand, we're going to route over here. Ooh, here we go. And this is another good interaction, right? So he's going to chain to me Effect Veiler, right? And what I'm trying to, I need to get my I need to get my scales set up, and I need to send my 2. So the pen summon is important. You know, it's like, regardless if I have to lose New Way right now, we're trying to protect this effect from going off, right? So I'm going to chain the wind and tribute our New Way, and then now we get a summon out Toad, right? And then I'm going to send over here our QB, and then I set up our scales, right? So if I didn't have to tribute and special summon, I could have gone into a throwaway. I forgot about the timing on Toad, right? And I knew if I sent Toad back here anyways, I'd have to choose between QB and Toad. And I wanted to try to, like, get them out, and I was hoping that I could just use their effect, but I keep forgetting that, like, he misses timing, you know, and QB misses timing as well. So the best way to summon them is off the Pendulum Summon, because the Pendulum Summon, there's no chain link, and then they all hit timing simultaneously, and then you can chain all of them together. But I needed to save the New Way, and I got Toad out, because if I do something else later on, like, we can recycle Toad, you know? So to me, I was like, okay, let's just get him into rotation. But so now we've got the timing for QB. So we're just going to chain link block the Secret Village with searching for Tornado. And then we add Tornado in hand, add Village. We're pitching the Nibiru, because who cares about Nibiruing our own field at this point? And then now we are going for the Ryu. And then we're going to keep Toad on the board so that we have a tribute for Tornado and to proc our, like, search, and we go from there. But it looks like it is a Math Mech deck. So right away, we're going to get rid of the Circular. I get rid of the Circular because we don't want him to be able to get into Super Factorial, stuff like that. And then he does have Extenders in hand, which we're not surprised. Goes right into a Splash Mage. And then I'm not going to use my Imperm at this time. I'm just going to use Kieran, target Kieran to bounce itself, and then send the Splash Mage away, and he's got no more Extenders. So now we're going to pend, and we're just going to pen summon our Bunbuku, and then also get Pegasus out. Pegasus is for 2 reasons. We're going to search our other field spell, and then Bunbuku searches Yatta, and then we're going to pitch the Kieran. And then this is good to have in the graveyard, because now we can get the Kieran back with Wind. So it's like we didn't lose it at all. It's just like a trade. And then right here now, that procs our Ryu. Ryu goes for Porcupine. Porcupine sets Wind again, and that's lethal damage, 8,500 on the board. And we still have Imperm. We still have, like, I'm not locked right now. So if this guy had something like Battle Fader to stop me from lethal or whatever, I would be able to go main phase 2, go into Appaloosa, 4 material Appaloosa, like whatever I wanted to do. Keep a guy on the board for a Wind tribute, keep Kieran or whatever, you know. So, or I could keep Kieran on the board, use Wind, not tribute a monster, go into 4 material Appaloosa, right? So I have 4 material Appaloosa Kieran, use Wind, choose no to not tribute, just bring back Toad from the graveyard. You know, so you just get extra bodies on the board, and then you can keep Kieran on the board and bounce Toad to your hand to bounce a guy back through your 4 monster negates. So I love this deck, man. I'm a Majespecter lover now. But yeah, we'll go into the final gameplay here, and I think that one is me going second. All right, moving into the final gameplay. I am going second. They won the coin flip, chose to go first. We have a pretty good hand for going second, so I'm happy with it. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks to anybody that made it this deep in. I'm not really like promoting this channel or anything or going out of my way, and I just appreciate any of the people that are subscribing and are here and listening to any of this content. I'm just doing this as like a hobby. I work full time and stuff like that. So to me, it's just, I just love doing like long breakdowns and making like little montage videos with music. So I appreciate it. Anybody here for sure. And here we go. Final parts of the game. Let's see what this guy's got. We're going to try to chain our hand traps as best we can. It is a tier limits deck. So luckily I am a tier main, I say myself, and so I do not care too much about going into tier. I know a lot of ways to interrupt them. So they did have the sea mare. We're just going to use this to stop it, and then we're forcing him to use the Sharon and then chain Max C to it, protected from Gamma, stuff like that. Tier loves to play Gamma. They do have the Shadal Beast. They're going to pitch, so they get to draw an extra, and then they get to search a trap. This is where I made a little bit of a mistake, not paying attention to what trap they search. I was just like assuming, oh, they're going to get Suliek or whatever. They ended up going for crime, and that ends up hurting me a tiny bit later on, but I'm okay with it. I was kind of playing around it mentally anyways, or I was playing around the one where they flip one of your guys face down, so I didn't care too much. But right away, we go into Bunbuku. We have double called by off of the tiny draws we got from the Max C, so I am happy about that. And that's going to cause a rage scoop later, spoiler alert. But yep, we're going to go into our classic maneuver. Let our boy do his thing. And then right now we've got these two going into Nue. Nue is going to do our penned search. So we've got to make it resolve. He is going to chain the Suliek. We're then going to chain the wind, much like the last game. Dodge that negate. And we're going to bring out QB. This time, same thing. I decided let's bring out QB. Let it miss timing and I'll set Toad up. So I fixed it. That's how we're learning to be smarter. Get QB into rotation. And then as I set the scale, he flips the crime, pops my scale. And so right here, I basically would have, instead of like if he didn't have that crime pop and he was going to flip, I would have been able to pend Yatta and Pegasus. But instead, I'm only going to be able to just pend Pegasus because I have to use Yatta for my other scale. And then he sends the Hobness. We're going to chain the called by. And then that is going to be a rage scoop because he was completely out of interaction at that point. And he didn't really know. But it's like I have another called by. And I'm about to set up Yatta and then still pen summon anyways. And then off the pen summon, probably go into some other form of extension, in his mind. Whereas it's like you and me know that we don't really have many more plays we can make after that. I could probably go into something like, go into a Electromite, use Electromite to pop a back row, hope I draw into something, hope I can get into, search another card that I might be able to get special summoned out or like get a wind or something like that. Or no, I already used wind earlier in the combo. But yeah, so it's like for us to get full lethal at that point is going to be rough. But he lost Havness, and as soon as he uses Sharon in any capacity, he's going to lose that for 2 turns. So I agree with the scoop. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in on these quick little replays. Wanted to just do a 2.0 second variation after I thought about how to change it up versus the first list. And this is what I came up with. I felt like it was working really well. I'm going to keep this version of the deck, and then I might use it to climb some of the next season. I'm just going to try to power into Diamond and then power into Master quickly because I will be traveling towards the end of the month. But yeah, so we'll hop into the deck list. That way you guys can see it one last time. All right. There we go. So here is the final look at the deck list, the tight 40 variation, where I'm just running some, things that you could go into after certain points. I showed it in that one game very well, where I got full lethal on the board with all just bodies, and then I had no locks, so I could go into Appaloosa or things like that if I wanted to, but I wanted to just go for lethal. You've seen many a times me going right into, Exceed the Pendulum, right into access code, trying to just pop back row. That's like your biggest back row remover. And then we've got the old Typhon in there as a situational card, so a lot of these are situational cards. Even the Little Knight, very situational. I hardly have gone into it. Same thing with Dinosaur Power, the Mighty Draco Slayer. Some people might not understand what it's there for, but we have it specifically in there because if you read, must be special summoned from your extra deck by tributing the above cards, 1 Draco Slayer Pendulum and 1 Pendulum Monster. And that's like basically getting a free tribute proc on Ryu to also search you into another thing like Kieran. So they're all there for just continuous pieces and choices, but the core strategy is just strong by itself, and if you have a good enough hand where you search correctly, it is nuts, man. You get all these traps set up. I feel like there is a world where you could even cut things like this and then run something wild like 2 of this, 1 of that, and then, or I mean, even just run triple of that and then runs 1 like that and then run a 42 card like this, and then you're hitting, draw sample. I mean, look at this. That's the same combo. You're hard opening this. You have follow up right here. I mean, 1 cards with extension, our God combo. Can't go second with that hand. But I mean, as you can see, this is unplayable. Unplayable, but you set as bait and then just freaking try to hope you win off a drop the rock. I mean, this right here, playable. Set this up, normal summon, tribute, go into Bunbuku. You can then use Bunbuku search Porcupine still. Like, you got plays. So after they hit something, you just use this, set one of your traps, pass, like huge. So I mean, this is playable. These ratios are playable. This might be something I work on to see a 3.0, but yeah. So this might clear up your going into stun where you have no back row removal and they've got like target protection and you can't use Imperm Effect Veiler. Like that would be your answer to a stun Andy. But yeah, I know this one's going to be a long one, rambling again. I always appreciate anybody who sticks around, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Artificial love, we just make it up, 'cause reality will never be good enough. And even if it was, we just mess it up, 'cause we already lost, addicted to the rush.